All right, welcome everyone. I'm excited to be here for Helping the Brave. I'm your host today, Mohawk Matt Denny. Got my co-host Ed Parco.
Hey,
Uh,
how
we've,
you doing?
and we've also got Jay Fondren and Eric Pettifer, if I
That's
said
it.
it right. Jay, Eric, how you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic, excellent, excellent. So these gentlemen, we're going to get into who they are and kind of their service and what they do now. You guys represent the PTSD Foundation of America. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Fantastic. Before we get too far, for those who haven't listened to us before, Helping the Brave is an organization that is here to, we're not creating anything new. We're trying to bring you the great resources and support that's out there for veterans. And Jay and Eric are going to talk about what they do to specifically help combat veterans. We're excited to get into it. I'm excited to get into it. I can only speak for myself. But I'll turn it over to Jay. We'll start with you. Tell us kind of who you are and a little bit about your story.
Yeah, Jay Fondren. I'm a retired U.S. Army Staff Sergeant. Served with the 1st Cavalry Division in Iraq in 2004. Triple amputee. I tell everybody you can count on me, but only up to 9. So I got hurt the day before Thanksgiving 2004, and it was fortunate when I came back. I had a lot of family support, a lot of support in the community, and then now I'm the Texas Outreach Manager for the PTSD Foundation of America, and we help combat vets and first responders dealing with those invisible wounds of war, adjusting back to society, and that line of duty trauma for those first responders.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I will say this because you've already said that you're an amputee. When you almost couldn't make the show today, Eric said, "Well, yeah, I've got legs, so that's why I'm here."
For the non-vets out there, that's how you deal with some issues, is with laughter and poking fun at each other as veterans, because some people don't understand that. And we were talking earlier because Dan Crenshaw in his book talked about when he got blown up, how they joked about it right then and there about it. That was the only way he could deal with it. And so
and I only felt comfortable saying the joke because Eric said that Jay uses laughter as well.
I'm just glad he signed my review last week.
That's true.
But Eric, so tell us who you are and a little bit about your story.
Hey, my name is Eric Pettifer. I'm originally from the Atlanta, Georgia area. I was an Army paratrooper for 10 years. 3 years was in the Guard. 7 was active with the 82nd Airborne, who I deployed to Afghanistan with in 2007. Got a 15-month deployment. Kind of worked pretty much all over the country, no specific spot. And got hurt on my last mission out there, and got medically discharged in 2009, right at 10 years. And I was on chronic pain management with the VA, and went down that whole road of having trouble, getting readjusted back into being a civilian, because my whole plan was, at this point, to stay in and retire. And all that kind of just went out the window, and I really didn't know how to. Lost purpose, sense of purpose, identity. And went down that whole road of opiate abuse, from being on chronic pain management with the VA, and just generally just destroying my life and my family's. At the time, I had pretty much everything you would think would make the average person pretty happy. Job, house, all that. And in 2017, I got to Camp Pope in March, and I went through the program there. And there's a lot longer journey up to that. I'm giving the brief version, but I did the program and was offered an internship, and then eventually a job. And so now I'm an outreach coordinator with the PTSD Foundation. I do community awareness events and get guys into the program, get through their paperwork, make sure they're qualified for the program, and get them scheduled for intakes and that type of thing.
Question for you: are you guys only in Texas?
No,
we have only resident facilities in Texas. We're at about 15 cities, I think, Jay. Right now, they host weekly peer-led process groups, and then if they have members of their groups that need something a little more regimented and and a longer duration type thing, then they can contact us, and we'll get them into our resident program.
Yeah, so like Eric was saying, we're across the country, and so in the cities where we have a physical presence, we have face-to-face meetings. But if you're out in the middle of nowhere, we have virtual support group meetings several days a week. So I'm gonna plug it now, but PTSDUSA.org, and you can get help and find a meeting, and it'll it'll link you up where the closest one is, and also, and then if you need the residential facility, we will fly you into the program. It's free of charge, so we'll cover the cost of getting you down here.
What is that residential facility? What does that mean?
So it's called Camp Hope. It's a 6 to 8 month residential program that we have down here in Houston, Texas. While you're in, it's only open to male combat vets, but while you're in the program, you're going to get LPC, LCDC services, because we come back, and like Eric was saying, so many of us turn to drugs or alcohol to numb the pain, and so we help with substance abuse issues as well. But you come in, and it's basically reverse boot camp is how I describe it. We're demilitary programming you, and so you can function in society. And you come back and you're part of your tribe, and you realize that you're not the only one going through or thinking the way that you're thinking. And so while they're in, we help them with finances and help you rebuild your credit, because we always joke that, or say that, nobody comes to Camp Hope on a winning streak. It's usually after a long series of losses that you finally get there, and and so we bring you down, and you do that and get peer-to-peer classes, and if you got court issues, legal issues, we help you work through that as well.
Got some service dogs there?
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, they're in the other room, but yeah, I got 2 German Shepherds, and my wife wanted a little fuzzy dog, and also she's got a little Springer Spaniel.
Jay lives next door to the Bumpuses.
Yeah, I got 6 kids too, so that don't help none either. Pre-deployment, post-deployment, every 2 years after.
So if you're paying attention, he just told you how many deployments he went on.
Well, 1, but we don't have cable, so I heard. I was at an event, and there was I guess I forget the guy's name, but he was he won several gold medals in Atlanta for swimming, and he was talking. Him and his wife had like 5 kids under the age of 8, and they were like, "Man, are you Catholic?" And he goes, "No, just horny." And but yeah, it's kids are great, right? Like I got one. So on my 3rd anniversary of my injuries, on my year 3, my mini me was born, and so a lot of people, those anniversaries come around, they're real sad, or you're struggling with them. But for me, man, it's it's the birth of my 3rd son, and so it's really special. But those kids, man, they they keep you on your toes. Well, they keep you all on your toes. They keep me in my wheelchair, but yeah.
Well, I appreciate your humor, Jay, because with someone that's gone through what you've gone through, I'm sure has it been a tool that you've used to battle what you've battled?
Yeah, it has. When we were in the hospital, the guys I was in the hospital with at Walter Reed, we would joke about that. Oh, we're gonna race you up the stairs, and if you can't laugh about these situations, then you're not gonna make it through. If you get offended or upset about it, it's just humor is a stress relief, so you can joke about that, right? Like, and so being able to have a sense of humor about it helps. It kind of diffuses the seriousness of the situation.
It's excellent. So, Eric, why are you so passionate? You shared your story. Was it Camp Hope? I may have missed it. Was it Camp Hope that helped you?
Well, it was a process, but Camp Hope was definitely the final step in it, where things really started coming together for me, because prior to that, the program I was court ordered to, it was a VA attempt at addressing the issues, and part of it, it was I played my part in it too. I was a pretty good manipulator and checked the block, played the game and got through as quick as possible, so that I could move on. And unfortunately, in that left a lot of things unresolved, and ended up having a backslide in there. For about a year and a half or so before I got to Camp Hope. And it was, getting to Camp Hope in the spring of 2017, a month before I turned 45. And at some point, I'm walking, through the facility. It's like about a 5-acre facility, I believe. And, I just kind of stopped and had this, light bulb moment. And I'm like, bro, you're 45 years old, essentially halfway through your life, and you don't have a whole lot to show for it. You got some pretty good, some pretty cool kids, and you've done and seen some pretty interesting things, but, not a whole lot. And do you really want to spend the last half of, whatever that looks like, stuck the same way you were? And, the resounding answer was no. Because my daughter, my sons were, almost grown at that point. They're now 18 and 20. But, I have an 11-year-old daughter, and, she's still got a lot of time before she's grown. And, I want to be able to have that relationship with her that I missed a lot with my sons when I was, stuck in my head and, isolating and, chewing Percocet like they were Tic Tacs. And, as we like to say around here, a lot of times doing a big piece of stupid.
Yeah.
What was that? So was that your moment that you finally woke up and said, I got to get help? Or what was that moment?
That moment was a 2-hour standoff with the sheriff's department in Georgia.
And they don't mess around.
Yeah.
It's not here in California with the sheriff's department.
I was always told don't do anything halfway, so, I had that event, and, I spent 109 days in solitary behind that while my family and the VA figured out what to do with me. Because at this point, my family was done. My father told me when I contacted him that morning after first report, he said, son, I'm going on a European cruise tomorrow. I'll get in touch with you when I get back. So, it took a minute for them to figure out what to do. And, again, going to this program, it was like a VA attempt at, a program for help. And the environment, the basis of the program, none of it was really, really beneficial at all. Like I said, I was able to get through it pretty easily, looking like the unicorn, and unfortunately, when I got out, when things started to, to fall to the wayside, I had everything based on things that couldn't hold me accountable, that weren't tangible. And, once those went away, I was stuck with nothing, looking back in the mirror but me. And unfortunately, I hadn't been doing a very good job up to that point. So that's what I was left with. And, again, started back down that road again, and luckily got in touch with a buddy of mine from Fort Bragg that had just come through the program. They didn't have an Atlanta outreach chapter at the time, and he told me about the program that he'd just completed, and 3 days later I was on a plane to Houston. I went through the program. Like I said, was offered an internship coming right out as a resident, right at about six or 7 months, and then was given a position here. Worked with the foundation for a while, in a different role for about 8 months, and then tried things back in Georgia, and it just didn't work out. And got offered to come back, and I've been back since April of 2019, and so now I'm pretty much established here. I'm remarried. I live in a house, and so life's good. Everything I lost, I've gotten back plus some.
It sounds like you're giving it back even tenfold.
Best I can. Yeah,
that's incredible.
So what would you recommend? So when people are getting out of the military, right? So it takes people a long time to deal with a lot of this PTSD. How can vets transitioning out, late day today, go through that and help themselves better so they don't go through what everybody else has gone through? You understand my question?
Absolutely.
Or do you have to go through what you went through in order to get out the other side?
Not everybody. Some people are a little bit harder headed than others. And unfortunately, I'm one of those guys. I would say, know that you're not by yourself. You're not alone. There's other people out there struggling just like you are with the same, if not, similar, if not the same things. And there's no shame, there's no shame in reaching out and saying, hey, I need some help, guys. And be honest with yourself. If you're looking in the mirror and you're kind of questioning what you're looking at, then, it's pretty good, indicator that you might want to do things a little bit differently. And, unfortunately, like I said, I'm a little bit, on the thicker skull end of it. And, I was in denial, or at least, I guess for, lack of a better term, and the fact that I was not, living up to my role as a husband and a father, and for that matter, a decent citizen. I learned very easily in Afghanistan how to disassociate. And when I got back, I had no emotion, no feeling. I did not care. If it didn't involve me, I didn't want anything to do with it. And that was my focus, was, doing me, and, everything else, middle fingers to the world. And unfortunately, it's not, you can't live that way.
Yeah, for sure. Jay, look like you wanted to answer that as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you come back, you know, the military is real good about giving us this identity, right? Like we look down on our chest and we know who we are, we know where we belong, we know what our value is, right? We can look down and see the ribbons or see the rank, and when you come back and you transition out of the military, you've lost your tribe, you lost your people group, but you've also lost your identity. Whether it's like for me, I was no longer that high speed, soldier that I was before, and I had to find my new identity. And so finding your identity, post military service, and then talking about those issues. I remember I was out on a fishing trip with a bunch of the combat vets, and we were talking, and every one of them ran around and talked about something they do. It was, when the kids spill the ice out of the ice machine, I'm afraid that it's going to melt. Wife's going to come down, slip, fall, break her neck, and die, right? Or I got to make sure all my windows are closed, the blinds are closed, the doors are locked, and all the exterior lights are on. And everybody went around. One of the guys goes, "Man, that's our PTSD." And I was sitting here thinking, I'm doing okay, but struggling with, some of these things. And I'm like, man, if everybody else has PTSD and they all have the same issues, then maybe I'm not the unicorn. Maybe I need to go get help. And it took me a long time to get to where I would talk about that kind of stuff and actually get that kind of help. And so, seek, like Eric was saying, seek the help that you need, and realize that the world really doesn't owe us anything, right? Like that's a lot of us come back and I call them. I have a couple of friends like this. I call them professional disabled vets. Man, they're on all the hunts, they're on all the trips, they're on all the stuff, and they don't ever get back into living civilian life, and you just get stagnant, right? And so you have to get out and you have to do something. And whether it's you go back into the workforce or you go and you volunteer at the animal shelter or with kids or taking care of your kids, but you have to do something. You have to get out of the house, because sitting around playing Call of Duty, and for 10 years after you get out of the military is not helping you any, right? And you got to have a purpose, right? Like we had a purpose in the military, and I think as men, we were created to have a purpose and we were created to work. And so you have to get out there and you have to do something, and then realize that the civilian life doesn't make any sense to the military mind, and also so do something, seek the help that you need, and find your identity outside of yourself and what you do. And I used to talk about, I had this F-250 King Ranch pickup, man. I love that truck. And my lift broke and smashed the side of the bed for like 6 or 7 months. I drove around with that big dent in the bed. And I was like, as men, we try to find our identity. Like, and I got this big house, I got this beautiful wife, I got a lot of money, I got, this nice F-250 King Ranch. But just like that dent in the side of my truck, man, those things all go away. So find your identity in something that's not going to be taken away from you or can't be taken away from you. So
yeah, you gotta be okay being you.
Yeah, it'd be okay being you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. In my experiences, a lot of people's experiences, it wasn't until for me you found what that purpose was again that everything else just kind of melted away. Just kind of like Teresa says here, perform an act of service and it takes your mind off the trauma, which is exactly it. You focus on yourself, and for me, I would keep reliving it, refocusing on that. And the more I served others doing this, I don't even know that I don't sleep right now. I'm so passionate about doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Like it's the act of service is a powerful tool for sure.
Anything else we're missing out on? Because you guys deal with this day in and day out.
So let me ask you this. So how big is this? Is it, I know you do a lot of virtual stuff. Is this like you're helping 5,000 vets a day? Is this millions? What? It doesn't matter. I'm just curious.
Jay, you're the numbers person with this.
Yeah, I'm the numbers guy. So we're doing in Texas. That's kind of that's my wheelhouse. In Texas, so we have I think we have about close to 90 guys on site. Right now.
89 Monday morning.
Yeah, and so last year I'd have told you 75 would be how many we would have in the residential program. And COVID, man, everything went away. Like for me, it was just a struggle because when I was at my darkest, after I got out of the military, I was just sitting on the couch, and so or sitting in the bed, and COVID, everybody had to isolate. You had to stay home. You couldn't go do things. You couldn't go to the gym. You couldn't go out and go fit. All these things, and so So we saw an uptick. We're still seeing an uptick in guys needing help, men and women needing help. But so we have about 190 at camp. I think this year we've run through, or last year we ran through about 200 and something guys through camp and in our support groups. So we're doing about, each individual employee is doing probably close to 30 individual one-on-ones and just checking on guys. And then in our groups across Texas, we have about 100, 150 people come to our groups. And that's including family members. Because for the biggest deal is like, there's a lot of things out there for the veteran, but if you're we come back with all this trauma and we just unload it on our spouses, they need somebody to go and talk to and explain to them what's happened to us and why we're different. Right. And so, so we have those. So we're doing that. I think last year we had, about 600 or 6,010 groups, and we did close to 9,000 one-on-ones. That includes just checking on guys and crisis calls. We do crisis calls. Our boss wants us to be the first responders there a lot of the time, and so if I show up, I play on my disability some, but when I show up and the guy's all pissed off and mad, and if the cops show up, it's going to be bad. But when I show up and they see me, they kind of go, well, I'm not a threat because I ain't got no legs, and you just go hide in the stairwell if you want to get away from me. But it kind of diffuses it, and then I'm able to talk to them and convince them they're not alone. They can come and get help. So we do a lot of that as well.
Yeah,
and then teaching first responders how to deal with us, because things that we've been tactically trained. So we see when people are kind of circling around us or going into that. They call it interview stance and putting their hand on their weapon. And most of us are always, carrying too. And so, it's like, man, just keep your hand off your gun. I'll keep my hand off my gun. And we all want to walk away or roll away.
Well, I really like that because it's more than just you. It's more than just the veteran itself.
Yeah.
Working with first responders so they know how to react. Working with spouses so they know what to do with us. I mean, there's things today that my wife still doesn't know. And maybe we'll never know.
Yeah.
But we have found things or resources that help her understand some of that. I love that that's part of your guys' mission as well, because it's critical. It really is.
Yeah.
Matt, can you put their information on the screen like you do?
Yeah.
Because you're really good at that typing.
Yeah,
He's a good typist. He's a good typist. I just tell him what to do.
My typist. What's your guys' website again, or the link?
It's www.ptsdusa.org. And then we have a crisis line, and that crisis line is 877-717-7873. That 7873 is PTSD.
Yeah.
But
I'm not that good at typing. I'm ready now.
Yeah. So
line again, crisis line.
Crisis line. It's 877-717-7873.
What's the hours of that?
It is 24/7. So if you call drunk off your rocker at 2 a.m, you're gonna get a combat vet to pick up that phone and tell you how what you need to do. But you and that's the deal, right? Like you call the VA line, you got to press 1, and then they get somebody that's been trained to talk to a veteran. But you call, and I can't tell how many times I've had that crisis line, and the guy calls, and you're sitting there, and that's the beauty of combat vets is when a Vietnam vet's talking about when they were taking mortars or pinned down by an RPG or being shot at by AK-47. We understand that, right? Because we've been pinned down by mortars, we've taken RPG fire, we've been shot at by AK-47s. It's kind of universal on that, so we speak the same language, and then you can talk to them because we share that. We have that same tribal language, the same people group, and so we can talk to them, and it's lived experience, right? Eric can tell them what's worked for him. I can tell them what's worked for me. Our other staff, they'll tell them what's worked for them, and you might listen to Eric and go, man, what Eric's got to say is garbage, but what I have to say might resonate, and it works the other way, right? We're going to give you a set of tools, and you can pick which ones work for you. You can modify them so that they do work for you, but we're going to give you a set of tools. We're going to tell you not from what the book says, but from what somebody showed us how it actually works, and so it's that lived experience, and so that's what makes us a little different than some other organizations.
And so I know you guys target combat vets, but if I call that line, you're not going to hang up on me, right?
No, we'll find you resources.
Yeah, we will find you
Oh.
resources.
Yeah.
So we get battered women that call, we get non-combat vets, we get first responders, we get, you know, people that were abused as kids, and when they call that line, we are going to do everything in our power to find them resources in their community, and direct them and link them up with good resources. And usually, you know, it's we try to find therapists in the area that are doing the same kind of thing that our clientele are getting seen, that we at our LPCs and LCDs are treating them with. We do EMDR. Most of our clients go through and do EMDR. They do ART was something new that we were exposed to.
What are some of those EMDR for people?
EMDR, which is it's eye movement
desensitization
reprocessing. So the analogy that I like to use in explaining it is when we're just going through normal life. Our little brain is a fax machine, and there's this little guy in there collating all the faxes as they come out. So in normal times, he can put things in different stacks and sort of. In trauma, he just gets overloaded, and so everything gets stuck together. When you put a bunch of paper together over time, it just gets the ink smears. So EMDR lets you separate that, so you can sit there. So I can remember when I got hurt, and I can remember it and kind of be sad about it, but I'm not traumatized by it anymore. And so it lets you separate emotion from the memory. So EMDR is good for that. Another one's called ART. It's accelerated resolution therapy. It's very similar in how they do it, but it's not as open-ended. So you go in for an hour session or so, and most of the guys, they have almost completely worked through the issue, or they're very close to making that breakthrough on that issue and through ART. And then some of the other stuff, like immersion therapy worked well for me. Like a lot of guys hate it, but when I was at Walter Reed, one of the things I wanted to learn how to do again was I like to hunt and fish, and I wanted to learn how to shoot a rifle again. So I went down, and they had a FATS, which is the digital firearms trainer, in the basement, and had subwoofers. And we went down there, and I was shooting left-handed, qualified expert left-handed. And then they ran combat scenarios. So I'm sitting there having a good old time with this, but I'm getting exposed to that combat trauma or that combat scenarios again. And while I'm doing it, my wife's in the room with me, my therapist is in the room with me, my rec therapist is in the room with me. So I'm experiencing these things I experienced overseas, but in a very safe environment. So it worked well for me. A lot of guys don't like it, but the therapists will find out what type of treatment you respond to, and then they'll focus in on that. So we try to find those guys. When you call, we help them find counselors that are doing the things that we're doing in those areas.
That's incredible. Go ahead, Ed.
My question, is there a list of these people out there that do this for people, or is it you have to go to somebody like you to get to these resources? I mean, is there something put together?
If you know what to look for, you can find it. But a lot of people, they don't know. They don't know what an LCDC is or what EMDR is. So they don't know where to start looking. And so we're familiar with it. We can just go right there and pull up some numbers and websites and text them over, email them, or whatever.
Yeah, you have sites like Psychology Today. So if you live in, let's say, Louisville, Kentucky, and you wanted to find somebody that did ART or EMDR, you could go in, you could punch in EMDR therapist, Louisville, Kentucky, and it'll give you a list of them. That's a place to start. But like Eric was saying, most of these people, when they call or we get our hands on them, they're hurt so bad at that time that they don't know where to start. And so, if we give you a list of therapists in your area that you can call, or go over on our website, one of the things, we're partnered with an organization called Psych Hub. And let's say you want to know about some of these different treatment options. They have little videos that you can click on, and they kind of explain it to you. But we'll help them find these resources. And then there's the National Resource Directory that the DoD and the government have, these resources. So if, like Eric was saying, if you know where to look, you can find them. Some of the stuff we've compiled, like we have a list of resources that we have where, if you need to talk to somebody about addiction or substance abuse, we can get you lined out with organizations that do that. And some of it's just networking and meeting people and knowing that's the beauty of Eric. Eric knows, 7 or 8 different organizations. So like at our residential program, we focus on male combat vets, because when you get male combat vets and female combat vets together, it's not conducive to healing, right? When, men, they just got one thing on their mind when there's women around. And for a lot of the women, when they experienced their trauma, they were surrounded by a bunch of male servicemen and women. So it's not conducive both ways. So, Eric's got, connections that he's made with 3 or 4 different organizations to help out female combat vets. And so we can get them in and get them, directly connected to these organizations that'll get them into their residential programs or get them into their outpatient programs. And so it's just, we've been doing, Eric's been here for a year or two doing this. I've been on the foundation for 3 years. And prior to that, I did case management at the VA. And then I decided I want to help vets. So I left the VA and,
Well, how's that DOD list? Is it any good or?
I mean, it's you got to filter through it. It's some of it's not, it's self-reported. So like for us, we went in and reported that this is what the things that we do, and we put ourselves in, and they kind of very cursory just checked and made sure that our information was on our website that said what we did, and they put us on the list. So some of the organizations, they don't clean it up real well, but it is a starting point.
Right. Now, if there was a female combat vet who needed help, they could just call your number and you would get them into where they need to be. Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, have you guys ever used EFT or emotional freedom technique or tapping?
It's like, that's kind of like EMDR.
Yeah. So some of the EMDR
pressure points.
Some of them use tapping. Some of them use paddles. Some of them use a metronome. So yeah, a little familiar with
light bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so it was something I liked what you said about finding what works for you.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the things that worked for me was EFT, emotional freedom technique. And it's a combination of tapping, NLP, neuro linguistic programming.
Yep.
Like there's a part where I talk about acting like a monkey, and it sounds the stupidest thing in the world. But now I've done it so many times that my wife, if I'm having that situation occur, she can just make the monkey arms or like text me, act like a monkey. And I've done it so many times, it's anchored inside of me and it works.
Well,
So
you said anchor. It's a grounding technique, right?
Yep.
And so yes. And like I have a friend of mine, and he did those, he plays those glass bowls in the morning.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And to me, like if I said that to most people, they're like, man, that's kind of hokey. And I'm like, well, it works for him, so it's not hokey, right? Like,
yeah.
Like some people are like, man, acupuncture really works for me. I like acupuncture, but some guys are like, I don't got nothing from it. If it works for you, then you should do it, right? As long as it's not hurting anybody else. But if it works for you, you should be able to utilize that.
Yeah, I want to paint a picture for you. So it was about 8-10 years ago, and we had there's like 15, 20 Marines. Of course, we're all hardcore and badass. Of course, Marines were even more egotistical than everyone else. And so we're like, Marine Corps. And we got about 15, 20 Marines, and we were at this event. It was an event to help us. It was when I was attached to Wounded Warrior Battalion or regiment. And when we were there, I had lavender oil, and oils is one thing that works for me. And so like I started smelling, I put it on, and his buddy was like, what's going on? And within 10 minutes, we were passing down lavender oil down the entire row of these Marines. And everyone's like, because they're like, oh, this actually works. And one guy, I was like, dude, that's bullshit. Blah, blah. He's like, hey, you don't think it works? And he poured it on him, and he calmed down. He got pissed, but he still calmed down. But I only share that because you said, oh, that's hokum, that's hokey, but you really just never know what works. And what works for you isn't going to work for me. What works for Eric might not work for Jay. So,
right. Yeah, I got a friend that's like this big into the essential oils, and he tried everything. Did the residential program at the VA, did a couple other inpatient. Never really did our program yet, but he did a bunch of programs, and finally his wife started sprinkling like joy or whatever that on his pillow. And he started sleeping through the night, and she was telling me about it, and I'm like, but you think about like sense of smells, like I can go somewhere and I can smell something, and I'm back on the streets of Iraq, right? Like it has that smell. So our senses are like, especially in smell, are so tied to our emotions and how we perceive the world. So having that calming smell or something that we can associate with it calms us down. It does work. Just if it works for you, it's not stupid.
Yep. as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. I like what you said there. If it works for you, it doesn't hurt anyone else, give it a try.
I just want to thank you guys I'm not trying to get rid of you, but for sharing your stories today. Because I know it's a lot of veterans don't want to share their story. How can we get them to share their story more?
What's working for you guys?
For me, it was just having to do it, just a repetition. When I first got put in situations, there was a lot of it, I was embarrassed to admit. There was a lot of it that was, very painful, and I couldn't even start talking without choking up. But just, in becoming more exposed to my own story, getting, putting it out there and talking to other people about it, it's kind of made friends with it, I guess. It's kind of like exposure therapy. The more you do it, the easier it is to be around, and now, I'll stand up, in front of several hundred people, and say, hey, I was in solitary confinement for 109 days,
Wait a minute, Eric, tell us what happened 2 years ago on Veterans Day.
I got bamboozled into being on live television.
And you were able to do it. I
was able to do it. I try to make sure nobody finds out where that video is, but still.
Hold on, we have it for you today. Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and that's it, right? So you start, and that's part of one of the things that we do is in our we do it's step work, but it's the book we use is called the Combat Trauma Healing Manual, and in it is your step 4 is your chronological history of your trauma, right? You got to go back. A lot of these guys, we have to go back to childhood trauma, because the military is a great way to escape a bad childhood, right? Like, you're going to pay me, send me somewhere else and train me to do a job, I'm in, right? And so, but you have to, you get used to talking about it, and you start with like your therapist or a trusted friend. And for a lot of guys, a lot of combat vets, it's, they don't want to talk about, I don't want to talk about, you try to use I statements, but like talking about what happened to me and what I experienced overseas, most civilians aren't going to understand. But if I'm with a group of combat vets, they're going to understand. They're not going to judge me because they probably did the same thing, right? They struggle with the same things. And so, like, I remember I was home on leave. My oldest son was born while I was overseas, and I got to come home for 2 weeks after he was born. And I'm sitting at the dinner table at my grandparents' house, and my uncle, he fair caught a mortar round in Vietnam, and I knew that growing up because he had this scar that ran from his head down to his toe, and every now and then he'd flick a little piece of shrapnel at us when it came out. But he and I are sitting at the table, and we're sitting there having lunch and talking. And all of a sudden, he starts telling me about how he got wounded, like his story. And when we got done telling me about his time in Vietnam, I looked around, and I have about, I don't know, I got 40 cousins or so, and so this house was full, and it's usually loud, and everybody was quiet. And we're riding home, and my mom goes, "I've never heard him talk about that. He's never talked to me about Vietnam." My cousin, his son, we were talking. He's like, he's never told me about that. Like, everybody was listening because he never talks about it. And so we feel safe around other vets, and that's the benefit of our program is everybody that you're going to work with if you come to the program is all combat vets. And so, there it is. There it is.
Oh, look at that internet! Thank you, internet.
For that one day.
Gotta love the YouTube. And so so we tell the story. And so, like, for me, like, I got up and, first time I told my story, I was real nervous, and and then as I tell the story of what happened to me and how I got through it, and it becomes less, it becomes sort of almost like it's not about me anymore. Like I'm telling my testimony or what happened, but it's that guy that's experiencing it. He's just a character in that story, and it's very therapeutic because you get to talk about it. And, we talk about in recovery, you talk about you're only as sick as your secrets, right? And so if you put that stuff out there, it doesn't have any power over you anymore because you're talking about. I'm not ashamed of the things I did or what I experienced, and you talk about it, right? But you have to start doing that with, I think in a safe environment with a safe group of people who aren't going to judge you. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with actually getting out and doing it, in front of a stage of people or on live TV or on a podcast, and also, but the more you talk about what happened to you, it's therapeutic.
I think I told you a while back, Matt. So my dad died of hairy cell leukemia from Agent Orange and all that. So my mom remarried. And so this was my stepdad, who was a Marine. And I never knew anything about his story. I talked to him the other day. I was telling him we're doing this. And he tells me the whole story about when he was in Vietnam and how he took shrapnel and got hit. You know what I mean? The whole, and then he tells me the story about my grandfather, which I didn't know was in World War II, and what happened to him and all that stuff. And but you're right. I mean, veterans will talk to other veterans like they wouldn't with their family, other people, right? Because they don't think they can understand what they went through. And I really appreciate you guys being there for these combat vets and being there. And I'm not trying to get rid of you. I'm just saying thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. How often do you have to be that guy on the line? Is that something you sign up for? Like, hypothetically, if there's people listening and they want to be a part of this organization, can they sign up to be that person that answers the phone?
So with the phone, no, there is an app. It's this really neat little app. It's called Objective Zero, and it is straight peer to peer. So you log into that app, and it has you register as a participant, but you put in like where you serve, what you did in the military, your branch, and then let's just say like I was in crisis, I could get on there and I could click on it, and it would show me people in my area, and I could filter it down and say, I only want to talk to Army people that were artillery that served in Iraq. And it would connect me with somebody, and I could call them through the app. I could video chat with them through the app, or I could text them through the app. And then they have some training that you self-take the training, and it's got a little test. And once you take that test, then it puts you on, you can sign up as like the person that they reach out to. And so, most of all of our staff, we have that app running. But if you wanted to volunteer, if you go with our organization, if you go on the website, if you're in an area that we're not physically at and you want to start a chapter and start holding support groups, if you go on that and reach out to us, then we'll get in touch with you and we'll start the process on that. We do a little bit more training to make sure that, you know how to handle those calls and all that. And the calls are really first fielded by our mentors at the residential program. And then they kick them out to us after they've established whether or not you're in crisis, or if you are in crisis, then they send it to us and we respond. So there are volunteer opportunities, but all that information on the website.
Fantastic. Appreciate that. And secondly, Ed, we got to have that app on the show.
Yep.
Whatever that app. What's that app called again?
It's called
Object Zero.
Objective Zero. I will send you a DM with that guy's contact info, and just a couple combat vets that were tired of losing their buddies and wanted to do something about it.
Excellent. So let me ask, why do you guys keep doing this as we're kind of talking here? Why do you keep doing this? What keeps you going?
For me, it goes back to that struggle I had when I got out with, not knowing who I was, a sense of purpose, and I guess bigger than anything is if I can, circumvent and stop, another veteran from having to go as far down the road as I did, I'll step out to, and do that, any day of the week, because, it was a long process for me and it was not pleasant at all. I'm not going to lie, but that's just being able to, to insert yourself in the situation and, kind of mitigate the fallout and keep it from getting as bad as it could be.
Yeah. For me, I got out and, my wife came in one day and she was like, you don't got to get a job, but you got to get out of the house. And I went to work for the VA and I was case managed. I got in a position where I was case managing guys that were seriously wounded, very seriously wounded. And I had about 5,000 guys in the area that I was doing case management work for. And one year I had 150 of them commit suicide. And it rocked me because I had to deal with the spouses and the kids and making sure that they were getting the benefits that they got, rolled over. And it destroyed me because I was seeing, these men and women that were committing suicide and then how it was affecting their families. For me, it was like, what can I do to help with that? And it was, well, we got to do something for the vet. That's where we start, right? So if we can help the vet, learn to not just survive in society, but to thrive in society, then potentially we can keep that marital relationship together. And, that what kind of impact is that going to have on those kids and then those grandkids? Because, all of us learned to serve. Right? All of us learned to sacrifice, and you saw that when the World War II vets came back, they just got back to it. Right, the positive impact they had on society, and I think us as veterans and combat vets, we have the great potential to do great things for our country. Right, we've already started, signed up to do that when we started to serve, and so if we can if our generation of vets can kick in, we're going to have a great impact. But if we can kick in and teach our kids to kick in and teach our grandkids to kick in, and we're going to have impacts in our community for generations to come. And I think that's also part of the reason why you need to talk about your story, right? Like we're losing all these World War II vets. And I remember a few years ago, they had some of these ROTC guys were coming through, and they were doing your video, your oral testimony, oral history of your wartime experience, and they're archiving this stuff in the Library of Congress, and to get to come in and tell why we went over there, what we were experiencing when we decided to sign up and join. For those that came in after 9/11. So I saw 9/11. I saw the towers go. I was on active duty when it happened, but I saw the towers go down. Or I wanted to come in the military for this, and this is what we went over, and these are the things I experienced, and this is some good that we did while we were over there. And you get to archive all that. And so when people come back and either they rewrite history or whatever it is, they have our first-hand accounts of what it was like. And so to document that for the next generation to come in and understand what it was that we experienced and went through, as a society, and then as a veteran in combat and all of that, I think is very important.
Thank you both. I really appreciate your time, what you guys are doing for vets, for people, for just everyone that calls that line, that reaches out to you guys. You guys are doing some great work. Thank you. Is there anything else we should know about your organization or you guys you want to share?
I just say, and I just want to reiterate, you're not alone. There's other people out there going through the same stuff. No shame in reaching out and saying, hey, I'm struggling right now. And have a buddy stick out a hand and pull you up.
Yeah. We've been in that hole. We know how to get out of it.
Exactly.
Excellent. Ed, anything else from you?
No, I'm just in awe. I'm really in awe of you two. And he's laughing over there. But the only thing I want to say, next time when when they say they're not alone, don't throw them on the screen by themselves. All right.
So I didn't know that was going to go on the screen immediately.
Yeah, both of them.
I know.
We all left. See you later. We left you alone. We apologize.
Yeah. My bad.
No, not you. That was Matt doing the little.
No, that's what I'm saying. I said, my bad. Didn't mean to leave you alone, buddy.
No, I mean.
Yeah. Would you say a lot of vets have demons before they get into the military, and those are the same demons they have when they come back?
Yeah, they're just stronger.
Yeah. So the last survey that I looked at showed that 75% of combat vets with PTSD have prior childhood trauma, whether that's they were abused or it was just a bad situation or they experienced the death of a loved one or motor vehicle accident. 75% of them have childhood trauma or prior trauma. And so you come in with this broken foundation because you're running from that trauma, from that childhood situation, and you don't have the coping skill. You don't have a healthy set of coping skills. And then you go to war, especially the op tempo that we've been at the last 20 years that we've been at war, right? Like, Marines, you deploy for 6 months, come back, deploy back for 6 months and come back. And you're multiple deployments, right? Like I remember when we were in Iraq, when we were over there in 2004, they were talking about how we had more combat experience and time, not taken away from the guys in World War II, but they were in it and then they were in the rear, and then they were in it and then they were in the rear, right? Like, but we were in it like the entire time we were over there. And so they were talking about how the prolonged exposure to that, and then you don't have the ability to kind of decompress when you come home, especially if you're doing multiple deployments. And so, like, again, the statistics are if you can get treatment within 6 months of the event, your chronic PTSD, your potential for chronic PTSD and chronic symptoms goes down. But we've just sent guys back over and over and over again, and the number of suicides for active duty, the divorce rate for active duty. I think they said something like after the third deployment, the divorce rate goes down. It's not because the guys aren't getting divorced anymore; it's just they're not getting remarried. And but you have that prolonged trauma, and you have to kind of take a step back and process it. And it's not it's not, like for me, without having legs, like there's a lot of times people come up and they're like, can I help you with this? And it's just like, yeah, but if you know how to get comfortable accepting other people's help. But if you don't have physical disabilities, it's hard to want to accept people's help. But you have to speak up and say, hey, something's not right with me and I need some help, and then be willing to let people help you get to where you can give back, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for coming on today and for what you continue to do for veterans. Folks out there, if you've never heard of PTSD USA, check them out. Whether you're a combat vet or not, they clearly said they are going to help you find the resources you need. If you need someone, for those watching the video, the crisis line's here. For those listening to audio only, we'll put the crisis line in the details of the episode. Reach out, whether they can help you or not, they will find someone that can. And that's what I really loved about hearing about what you guys do today. So, Jay, Eric, really thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and we want you to stay connected with us going forward, please. And then if there's any way you can add additional people in other places, if you guys, what you don't cover, you can send to us so we can help vets, because that's our plan here. It's all about the vet.
Absolutely.
And our goal is just let everyone know. So people that other resources you have. The app's one of them. Send them our way, and we're going to help share that out too.
All right.
Awesome.
All right. Stay there.
Eric, Jay, don't hang up, and everyone else, have a great evening. See you next time.